Yes.
Right.
So, but I've made some slight changes, stuff like that. But if you just take a photo, then you can sort of look online for it. But the good thing about that is that you've got something to go from, you know, to start with.
Starting point.
Yeah. But to the point, yeah, it's very beneficial. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, you look at my sails, I write the measurements on the sails, because we've got 4 rigs for these things. So once you've sailed with one for a while, you get familiar with it, but as soon as you change rigs, it's like, oh my God, I've got to get my card out and stuff like that. If you have it written on the sail, then it's going to be very easy for you to sort of then do fine tuning. The good thing about these rigs is that you can pop them in, pop them out, you can sort of make various marks of, you know, where the backstay is and so on, check your rake beforehand, so that then those fine tuning ones will then make it easier once you pop them in. So the idea would be to go through this, set up all your rigs accordingly, so starting off with your rake, and then go working through basically your marking your backstay position, so that you've got something to always go back to, and then sort of going through and just setting, so your vang, your kicker, this one here, in combination with sort of your sheeting positions, and you can sort of see, even to sort of have like some little marks on the deck is quite good too. So visually you can sort of like have the boat and just sort of see quite easily where it's out, because when the main thing is by having this is that everybody's doing the same thing, where if you read it, if you don't quite understand it, then you're sort of doing your thing. You know, a discrepancy of like 5 millimeters can be the difference between how you measure it and how somebody else has interpreted how to measure it. So that is the thing, is sort of, you know, the good thing is they do give a slight explanation of where they want you to measure things, and it's very important that you're doing that. On YouTube you can sort of see the guys run through and they'll visually show you as well. So that's quite good if you not quite understand what they're measuring from, where they're measuring from. Then you know, then you might be a little bit just out a little bit. Okay, so that's the key things. So they do give you a little bit of an idea. So setting up your boat, the most important thing is, first of all, is going to be your rake with your mast to start with, and then you're sort of going to go around, and then sort of, like I say, setting up your sheeted in positions for your settings. Sort of basically when you're sheeted in, how much you've got the boom out from the center, how much twist you've got from the backstay. Same with your setting for your boom from your jib. So they're using like the center of the mast into the boom, and then they're doing a measurement sort of from the middle of the leech of the jib to your mast. Okay, so that means that you'll be altering this a little bit for your fullness, and then setting your foots according to what they say. So there's a little bit of, you know, you can
leeway.
Yeah, so you can, you know, make them a little bit fuller, depending on the condition. So that even here they've got light winds, you know, small waves, big waves, just a slight variation. So to be honest, everything is here. A lot of it is just sort of going through, and then sort of just being pedantic, but take the time to go through all the rigs and sort of set them all up. But I think, to be honest, I've learned this from Bill Bradley, is to put the little numbers on things. And it means when you've got your ruler, you don't need to be sort of standing with your card, but you can go around and measure all these things. So to sort of, the points would be the middle of your boom to the foot for the depth, and then when you're measuring, you're sort of measuring with your boat on its side, sort of, again, this will be sort of in light, you know, sort of where the boat's not under any load breeze wise, so that you can sort of get the same measurement all the time. Because if you're setting it up in a breeze,
that measurement there would be from up there to the mast.
So that one is actually, that is from the backstay or the center of the boat.
Home.
That
Right.
one there. And then, so you're measuring from the center line, you're measuring how much twist you've got. These boats are it's quite important with these boats, they have quite a bit of twist, because they've got quite a big sail, big head on them, and sort of, you know, so that twist is quite important to keep the boat moving. Your jib is also the same, you've got your twist with your adjusting here, and then, like I say, just just having a few little reference marks is quite a good thing too, because then you can eyeball it so that you get used to looking at your sails. You know, sort of basically when you're looking at them, you can have it laid down and look from behind, or basically you can sort of see guys will lift the boat up and they'll sheet it in, and then they'll be just looking down the side of the boat. So if I had this sheeted in, and you're looking, sort of just looking a little bit between the trailing edge, your leech and your jib, and just sort of seeing how they're complementing each other, those sort of things. He's a very good sailor, and he sails it very well. So, if you want to say a few things?
I haven't seen the information on that sheet that you've got there, Reuben.
Right.
I've never seen that before.
Right. I mean, it's like a Bible. It's sort of
Right.
It gives you, it's a good go-to thing.
Ben started it from, what's his name? The Aussie guy that's
Oh yes,
his start.
Right.
And then, you know, if you really wanted to confuse yourself initially, you wouldn't, because the Aussies have explored it, haven't they, to death.
Yeah.
But you need to understand that before you go
Yeah.
to the next step, otherwise you run a rock clock.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a lot of experience in sailing.
Yes.
You know, big boats and real boats and these. This is like one because this is our Marblehead. I was I don't want to say I was the national champion for 1 metre, third in the world and second in the UK nationals, that sort of thing. So you know.
They know what you're talking
No, but I haven't sailed with my B rig and C rig yet with this boat. But my measurements for the A rig are quite different.
Yep.
Quite a bit different from what these are. And I just found it works for me. It might not work for everybody, you know, but I go with a straight mast. Straight mast and a straight luff on my sail.
Yep.
And that I just by accident I found out that my mast rate was quite different because of that. You know?
So when you say straight, you've made your own sails, or
Yes, I made my own sails.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
because the sails that come with it, they've got a certain amount of luff around them,
Yes,
and I felt
yep.
it was too much.
Yep.
When the sail goes right out, like I was saying to some of the guys over there before, if you've got too much luff curve, that luff curve has to go somewhere, and you end up with something like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean, when it goes right out. Whereas if you have a straight luff, that sail can go right around the mast from side to side without any impediment whatsoever.
Yep.
You know. But like what Reuben said, you know, just really I think it's like paying attention to what works for you. You know, if something works for you, might not work for everybody, but make a note of it. Just write it down. You know.
So does everybody have a ruler? Does everybody? I mean, some of the very good sailors don't.
Yeah.
And they can just eyeball things, and you ask them measurements, and they go, I don't use it.
One of them was John Tushingham. He was one of the initial designers
Yeah.
of this. He said put your rulers away and put your mast rate dimensions away. Forget all that. He said just get your boat balanced.
Yeah.
You know.
Because I was thinking too, if they wondered that, there's that, what's his name? Not Brad Reed, his brother, has done a video, has done a talk, and he only talks about 2 measurements on these boats. Ken Reed, he's simplified it.
Yep.
To hardly, you know, and it's really a good video to
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yep.
So the as far as the gate position is concerned, Reuben, you traditionally have it right back, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's you know, you've got some fairly good sailors, and then they'll sort of say that's what they do and what they think is good. And the reason, I mean, the person I'm thinking of that sort of had said that basically they run it back is Grant Lane. So he's a very good sailor. He sails, I mean, Marbleheads apparently are sort of, these are just a small version of a Marblehead as far as the design of the boat and all that sort of stuff. So he's sort of, so he, you know, and he sails these very well. So I think that's why, I mean, it's everybody you're going to talk to is going to be a bit of your own personal difference, especially if you're making your own sails and you know enough to have a different setup.
Different league.
But if you're buying, if you've got, you know, just the generic sails that come with them, then it's not a bad starting point.
Right.
So, you know, it's not a bad idea to sort of like, you know, just put it onto the kitchen table on its stand, sort of laying side and sheeting in position, go through and just do those measurements, get used to sort of what you're actually measuring, and then you know what's going to change and adjust everything. So I mean, your kicker here is quite crucial about, you know, just how much twist you've got on your mainsail. So that is quite a big part of these boats.
And also, Reuben, when you're downwind, you've got your boom right out, just have a look at your twist at that point as well. I don't mean that, but when your sail's right out, look at how much twist is, you know, because you can have your sail sort of like, you know, what you think is right for sailing upwind, but when you go outwind, it might be up way too far.
Yeah.
So then you know, if that's the case, if you've got a lot of twist up here where it's like twisting obviously way too much, but it looks okay when you sheet it in, obviously then there's something wrong with the actual rig. You know, you need to change something to get that balance right. You know? Because if you just end up tightening up the kicker and, like, you know, pulling that down there, but it's still twisted off there, there's something wrong. You know?
Yeah,
Or the other way around,
so the
you
way
know?
that you do that, just to see how it sails up. Get your boat, and then you're sort of laying it like that. And if you look from the back of the boom up through there, you can sort of see actually that's too tight. See how that's really standing up. So we go through and loosen this off. Then you'll start to sort of see getting a little bit of twist in the leech. Okay.
It's a compromise, really, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But
yeah.
the
They
thing
do
is
need
that,
a lot.
yeah,
But they do need a lot of twist.
Yeah. So with the like the 1 meters, so often you know you can have different setup methods, and one is you set up your leech in your running position, and then you're using a combination of ram, which would be the equivalent of this here. That's a little bit like moving your bottom of your mast forward and aft to sort of get that sheeting position where you're getting a nice leech without using too much. But yeah, you've got to just keep checking between your sheeted in positions and then your running position.
One thing I find really hard is when the wind is blowing and okay, it's come up. It was quite calm, and then steadily it comes up, and now I've got to make some changes. Where do I go first? As far as the wind is now coming up, where do I go first? I'm in between races. There's only a few minutes.
Yeah.
What am I going to go to?
I think the first thing that sort of usually as the breeze comes up, you might start to feel that you're starting to lose rig tension. So if your luff is starting to be too loose, then you've got to start sort of putting a bit more, you know, obviously backstay on, create a bit more forestay tension again, so that you can, you know, you've actually keep your jib sort of nice and flat.
Right.
But then start to sail with more easing your sheets, so that you're not so powered up.
Yeah, you'd have to get your jib going out as well.
Yeah,
pretty soon.
So I mean, with some of your controllers, you can set up where you actually got a little few millimeters of with your buttons. You can go up 5 mils or 10 mils type things like that. So start to sail your boat a little bit more, but also like on the sheets, it sort of says, you know, basically you might just have everything set up a little bit looser, so that the boat is sort of, you know, it's you're not pointing as high,
Right.
but you're actually you're just
faster
going,
through
you're
the
going
water.
faster. And especially with these boats, you know, it's all about keeping them moving, as you know. Basically, the other thing too is if you end up, you know, at least if you're loosening the leech a little bit, tacking's going to be a bit easier, because if you keep tightening up things too much, you'll find that when you try to tack in a windy conditions, you end up just coming head to wind. So still having a little bit of loose leech will actually help you get through the tacks.
And then by putting on the backside first, if the wind picks up, like Reuben says, that automatically eases your leech off in your main. So it makes it easier to tack, like, you know, by doing that, rather than the boat's kind of like fighting its way up into the wind all the time.
Right.
So that definitely helps. And obviously something
you ever
sheds.
sailing with a jib that far in?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, that's quite a hang on.
No. It's sort of pretty much just sort of almost sitting just
Yeah.
there and there. To be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are those settings from? Those intermediate settings that are they just a judgment?
I beg your pardon? So
Those
there's-
lines. Are
Oh
they,
right. So what they are is just the increments of measurement. So that basically when I know what I've set it up, I can sort of see where it is, and then if I feel I need to do a slight change,
Yeah.
then I can visually just sort of see where it is. It's just when you're looking at your boat and you've got it sort of like sheeted in with a little bit of wind in the sails, as you can sort of see where the boom is sitting on the jib. You can sort of see the twist of the jib, the twist of the main, so that you can sort of, you know, you can see how the sails are working as a
It's not on the
combination.
chart.
Beg your pardon?
It's not on the chart, so it's just
What you'll find is that, I mean, if you stroll through the YouTube, you'll see people, they show you all these sort of what they're doing.
okay.
So it's a little bit like, you know, just having this line here, that's 90 degrees to there, so I know that when I'm setting up my boat, if my jib's out 90 or a little bit in, you know, just so you've got references
Yeah.
to those sort of things.
Yeah, sometimes it can be quite deceiving. If you, I haven't actually got a mast, it's a good idea actually, but it can be deceiving when you've just at home and you're putting your boom out. It's like whether that's at 90 or not. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, what is that? You know?
Yeah, because when you look at them in the water, you look at other people's boats, it's hard to sort of tell. Where
Yeah.
you've got something a bit more factual, the same that you sort of see some people actually have the same thing, but you're using, like when you've got your boom, you're using the end of the boom reference the different portions of your boat, you know, how it's sort of sitting, so that you can look at things with your eye as well as with a you know, a ruler, because then you get a better feeling of what you're looking at. Because if you're just measuring everything but you're not looking, then you're not putting the two together. So you've got to be able to look at what you've done, and when you do a change, then you can see what you've altered. And the other thing too is, if you go around, you can measure other people's boats. So it's sort of, that's why I think it's quite good if everybody is sort of, you know, working from the same thing a little bit, especially if you don't have a plan yet. If you sort of run from that, then you can sort of see why, you know, if we're similar setup, why is he going better than me, or what have you done that's a bit better, and just small changes, like they sort of say, because they're very small boats, small changes make huge differences.
So the gate position relative to it being fully back, well, I mean, Burgess, he says when it's on the base, it should be in the middle on 5. But that changes, the numbers surely start to change on the measurements.
That's true. So you just got to see if you're changing something, how that's going to affect trying to sort of get the other measurements.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you know,
So, yeah.
I try and make as little changes as I can.
Yeah.
The least amount of changes I have to do, the more I find that you can just kind of like, you know, you can play with the very small things, like, you know, just a twist and that sort of thing, bit of Cunningham or whatever, but everything else just really, I try and work up in such a way that I don't have to make very many adjustments at all, so I can feel comfortable with the boat in the breeze or light winds without having to go like, oh, what was it? Was this or was that? You know,
It's 3 hours
you know,
to set up. It's
yeah. and then the wind drops and you go, oh, where am I?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point, and that's why it's good to think. Okay, I tighten my bat stay a little bit, and then I sail a little bit off, just ease out a little bit more. That now the winds come up. Well, that's a simple sort of solution, isn't
so
it?
Yes,
you'll
yes.
see
And
some people
you-
have. I'm sorry, you finished there.
No, that's good. Yeah.
I was just going to say that some of the guys actually have the different mast positions on a stick, so they can easily just put it in and just check that. That's sort of that's good, because with a ruler it's sometimes a bit harder to sort of get it accurate.
Especially in the wind.
So they just have a little bit of doweling with the various measurements, so they can just put that up there and just keep fine tuning and checking. So that works a treat.
Oh, that's great.
I noticed you don't have a little bit of string on your
Yeah, there was, but you can see this is broken.
it's broken. Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay. Otherwise you would have one.
I found that it doesn't matter too
Doesn't matter
much.
too much,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks
How
for
many
that.
turns have you got on that winch to like?
I don't think it really matters as long as it's not going to run out. That's
No, that's
because
that's
it's
what
only
mine's been doing. Isn't it?
it's only because it's only really running. You know, because sometimes we have winches which have got two. You know, where you've got a sheet in and a sheet out. Where this is just one, so you just a few more on. It's not really going to hurt.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
I'm curious about Woolies.
Woolly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this thing was
Is that actually woolly or not?
It is.
Yeah. So it doesn't stick to
Woolly.
the tail, the same as the tape.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean the good thing about the wool is exactly it can take a little bit of moisture, it's thing, but you know it's a bit heavier, so you can see they do dangle down. So in the light stuff, this is probably a lot more sensitive. So it's going to operate a bit better. But you know once it's wet, it's going to stick to the sail. But I think woolies are sort of one of those things. If you've grown up sailing and you're used to using them, then they're sort of like, you know, they're you feel like you're losing a little bit extra sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
So even I don't think in this class you're allowed little telltales, eh? I don't think you're allowed.
Somebody said you're not.
Yeah, I think I've read something where you could.
I've seen them.
But
with them.
that's in very light conditions. That can be also helpful, especially if you've got like a little bit of a turbulent place here in certain conditions. But the woolies, it just means that, you know, when they're working, then basically they should be flowing even both sides. So if you're going along and this is your windward side, wind's on this side, and this one starts to lift, that means that basically it's sort of, you know, you can come up because that air is becoming a little bit turbulent behind it. So the idea is that you if this one's luffing, come up. If this one's luffing, you've got to go down. So you can sort of read them like so. Or if you're going the direction you want to go, that means you can ease your sails. Okay, so it's either you're altering the steering, or you can just ease your sails to sort of get the sails working in their best sort of interest, especially on the wind, running, reaching sort of scenario.
So Reuben, you find that that's enough, little looking after
Generally,
the top of your main.
This is really what you want. Those ones there, because you're just reading, you know, if the jib is, if it's not backwinding, you know.
Yes.
And then, or if you know the wind's changed a little bit, you can come up a little bit. Because you'll see here today that breeze is all over the place.
Yeah.
So it means you can follow it around a little bit, and then it does help. I mean, I've seen some sailors that are very, very good. They don't have woolies, so you know it's not necessarily a must. It's not for everybody. If you're not using woolies, then you know you're looking at the luff. So when you come up a little bit too high, it'll start to backwind. So it's doing a little bit like what the woolies showing already. But you know the good thing about the other way is when you're a bit too low, then the woolly's actually sort of helping you a little bit. You know where the luff of the jib won't change.
Any other questions?
Yeah, as far as sailing on the wind, are you generally tend to go for boat speed rather than pointing too high?
I think with these boats, one, to keep them moving, and if you've got like a little bit of a puff, then it's quite good to probably just ease and sort of, you know, let the boat go a bit faster. I mean, it sort of depends on your sailing style, I guess. You know, it's sort of, you know, so yeah, some will always like to go high, a little bit slower, or if they can go high and fast, then that's great. Or if you've got a scenario where you know, you've got little puffs of breeze, just, you know, if you just ease a little bit and work those puffs a little bit.
Also with these boats, they're not much smaller in length than the 1 metre, but they're only half the weight. So they do tend to stop really quickly because they don't have the weight to carry them through. So if you're going hunting the breeze, you've got to be really careful with these boats that you don't want to go up and stop.
Yeah.
You've got to keep it moving. Like you obviously want to point as well, but you've got to keep it moving as well. You know, a lot more tricky in some ways than the 1 metre. 1 metre's got the weight where it'll do half the work for you, whereas these won't.
Go down to 65, it's even harder.
Yeah.
It's the same like when you tack, you might just bear off a little bit and then get the boat up to speed and then slowly come in, because then you're guaranteeing that you actually haven't tacked, made a mistake and you're too high and you stop. So the idea is just to tack, ease your sheets a little bit, so that when they're going to fall in that sort of and start working in that little eased position, build up speed and then slowly start climbing. Because once you've got the boat's moving, then you've got steering, you know. But if they stop, then you're dead in the water. So you're trying to get it to accelerate.
All right. Just that measurement.
you're measuring your boom,
Yes.
so you're measuring it to your backstay.
What it is, it's your centre line of the boat.
Yes.
So which
centre
in
line of
theory
the
that
boat, right.
would be
the
would
backstay.
be backstay,
Yes,
yeah. So yeah, when they mentioned that, I think they are looking, and that's why just having a line there
Yeah.
through, you can sort of
So you just bring a ruler down to that line, straight down.
I find also if you line up the backstay with your mast visually, then you can measure from the mast and you can see it on the ruler exactly where you're at.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
really good. Okay.
So do you think these measurements here are pretty good, do you? You think you work to that?
well, I mean, it's I only say
Pretty
them
closely,
occasionally.
I mean-
I don't say them enough to
Yeah.
have my own opinion yet. And to be honest, just working off those, it's
It's a good start.
a very good start. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those measurements are based on the standard issue sail, I take it, too.
Well, I think just
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
because otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, like Trevor saying that with him he's got a flatter
Yeah.
cart and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and they're recommending 1135 for the rate on the front there. Mine's 1125. It's like way different.
That's a lot
It's
different.
a lot different. Yeah.
So that would throw, because they're so critical, the measurements, because the boat's so small, a millimetre is a huge change here. So that's what I'm saying, that if you're not right on those, these will be all screwed, won't they?
Well, that's where you got to work your own.
Yeah.
I think you've got to work your own system.
This is probably a good starting point.
Yeah, that's
And
Yeah.
once you work out how you like to sail, how you like the boat to feel, what the conditions are, you start to work out your own measurements.
Well, my
you know.
brother in Nelson, he's got it set up so
Well, I
that
think it's because
he knows exactly where the base is, and he's got all the marks for the base, and then he makes alterations. But in the middle of a competition, he can instantly go back to the base.
Yep.
And so he can go back to the base and then start again, try something else. You know?
It's kind of like knowing your boat, isn't it? If you know your boat,
The
it
way
makes
you sail.
everything it makes
The way you
everything so
sail.
much easier.
Yes.
And that's why I say I make as few changes as I possibly can. You know?
That's good advice. Good
Yeah.
advice. Okay,
But
well,
if I can just take a plug, guys, if anyone's, I'm making sales to these boats, so if anyone's interested.
I like that. I like that.
Well, don't make them for him.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm making. So,
That's great.
if anyone's, I'm going to call them black diamond sails.
Yes, knew
So,
you could.
That's great.
But, yeah.
Well, let's get boats in the water, shall we?
I used
Thank
to
you
make
very
one
much,
wind
Reuben.
sail.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Reuben.